about everybody else around you, who you take on the journey.
Yeah.
And it is a journey.
Yes.
And if you don't like the people that you're taking on the journey, it's not going to work. If the people aren't contributing, and if you're not contributing to them, it's not going to work.
AJ, welcome to the Moxham Mindset.
Fantastic. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, delighted. Absolutely delighted. Been an avid listener, so.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed it immensely, so looking forward to the opportunity.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you for your time. You're a busy man, so wheeling down here on your scooter, your injured leg, appreciate it. And I sent you to the wrong location, so a little bit of extra wheeling. So, mate, appreciate it.
Happy to overcome.
So we've known each other for a long time and worked together at Ray White for many years. And for the listeners, tell us a little bit about Andrew Jolliffe's career to date, and interestingly, how the move from hospitality client side to agency took place.
Yeah, so look, as you know, we have worked together for a number of years, not for the last few, but then for a good chunk prior to that. My background rather has always been in and around hospitality assets, but as you rightly say, one side of the bar or one side of the fence to the other. So, coming from a background of operating hotels, and my family on both sides, my mother and father's side, but a generation removed from my mother and father, had hotel exposure, hotel interest.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Regional hotel, smaller hotel. And so it was sort of always in and around, the family, and I guess the ethos, and also, things, that we're attracted to, which is, I guess, people and occasion. And so that's, effectively where I found myself, like a lot of people, I guess, who not from Sydney, but from the country, who come down, and it's a good way to, I guess, integrate yourself into a community, the local pub, and I found an attraction to working in them.
Whereabouts in the country are you from?
Tamworth area.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay, two things I didn't know about you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good country man.
Yeah. So I did that, and did that for a number of years, and really enjoyed it, Jeff, and I think about it regularly, because obviously I still work in the same sort of broad brush environment, but I enjoyed those times, and I enjoyed the interaction with people, and I enjoyed being close to elements of popular culture, and I guess the dynamic of that business model. So it was maybe not that great a leap to jump into agency from there, although it was still a bit of a stretch.
It's still a big same industry.
Yeah.
Big leap, I think, for learning the ropes of agency and all of the things that sort of go with that. And how did that come about?
Look, it came about after a couple of decades, in particular in more of the corporate environment, in the hospitality space, in a listed vehicle, which I was fortunate enough at the time to be the CEO of, and I left that role, and I met the White family that we've both had fantastic experience being exposed to, and
indeed,
and it was suggested to me that I should consider agency, and it wasn't immediately apparent to me that was a good idea. For no good reason, by the way. I just didn't. There was no natural initial attraction on that basis, but I thought about it after a while, and I guess I think I can't recall whether it was Dan or Brian, maybe both, that suggested to me that the sort of interactions with people and the sort of maybe work ethic. I mean, hospitality is in and of itself, it's a real nose to the grindstone, type vocation for people to be involved in. It's 6 or 7 days a week. It's certainly not 9 to 5, and it's about being a self-starter and being motivated. And so really, when you think about it in that context, agency is not dissimilar. You get out what you put in, and so there were some similarities there that I identified with, and I think I also, and I think this retrospectively, I'm not sure I realised at the time, but I think I also saw in the White family good people, a really elegant, for me, segue into that family in this industry.
Yes.
I'm not sure I would have jumped across into agency had it not been for them, and I'm not sure I would have been as successful or have enjoyed it as much had it not been with them. So I count myself very, very, very lucky to have had that entry point.
Mate, I share with you the same feelings about going from institutional agency to business ownership. It was a fantastic step for me, partners and with them, and here we both are, sort of, gone off in slightly different directions. But as I said to Dan, I said, well, mate, it's take it as a compliment. It's the environment that really brought out the entrepreneur in me and obviously yourself as well. So it's a great environment.
Yeah, agreed.
And so HTL today, dominant market share in the pub space by a fair chunk. I assume the way it looks.
Yeah. Well, that's marketing, isn't it? But no, we enjoy our fair share and maybe some of market share. We have some internal metrics around that with how we want that to look like, but what success looks like for us at HTL in terms of market share. Market share is a function of a whole lot of things, clearly. So we don't get too caught up in it, but we like to think that a good barometer for us is if we can be the total sum of all of our competitors, which is obviously 50% or greater, that's success to us. And, that probably should be every business's goal.
100%.
And we've been fortunate enough to find ourselves in that position over the 3 or 4 years that HTL has been in existence. So that's an internal metric for us. If we find ourselves at 80% or 40%, it's all relative to the size of the market. So that is not the only barometer. But for us, when we set out, we thought there's a lot of effort has gone into this, and not only myself clearly, but Dan Dragicevich and the White family as well when we set this up.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, there was a lot put into it, so it kind of needed to reflect that sort of return. Non-financial return for it to justify all the carry on.
It's awesome. Tell us, so started out obviously, so Ray White Hotels into HTL, into pubs, now in accommodation. Also funding. Tell us a little bit about those spaces, the funding and accommodation.
Yeah, so the way we thought about HTL, Hotels, Tourism and Leisure Specialist, a brokerage agency, was always about how do we provide an alternative to the asset class, an alternative brokerage service that really focused on brokerage and in its purest form, but didn't necessarily need to pigeonhole itself into one subset within that hotels, tourism and leisure gambit. And hence, the opportunity to expand into, I guess, other derivatives, accommodation, the provision of finance and debt, and potentially others. And there's others that we're looking at, and I think we'll prosecute in time.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's all about touch points with clients.
And
banks have done it for years. That's not our own material. But I believe in it, and I think that if you've got the right people in those businesses in the right, providing exemplary products,
100%,
then you can do it. If you don't, then you shouldn't. It's a little bit like a cafe with a barista. And then you don't have a barista or a restaurant or a pub that we used to run, and we would know, can we provide a coffee machine with espresso coffee with properly ground coffee? If you've got no one to operate that, don't do it. It's actually worse than providing it. So
100%.
We're at the size we're at because we've found the people to back to do it. And if we can find those people to augment the scope of the services, then we're absolutely going to do that.
It's a really interesting point you make. I've sort of gone the other way where I sort of tried to grow first, forcibly grow, almost like grow for show. And I agree very much in what you say. It's all about the people first. And I think, as you've seen, as I saw with Ray White Commercial, with what we did there, and with my business and other small business, other privates that have really popped up, the days of the institutional businesses being the only ones to do the big business. It's really changing, and that was my gut feeling when I first met Dan a long time ago. And all you need is a good operator, some track record. People are interested in people, and relationships go with with where they go.
You see it all the time, and everybody at HTL has come from big agency.
Yes.
Whether it's whether it's a CB Richard Ellis or a JLL or a Ray White or a Colliers,
Yeah.
they've all come from big agency, and there's quite clearly nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
From time to time in a market cycle, though, there is the opportunity for boutique sized,
Yep.
but not to be confused with limited strength or
Yes.
limited capacity,
Yes.
but boutique sized operations. I think the lawyers did it first. I mean, a number of law firms broke away from these big law firms and talked more to agility and talked more to family office type discussions, and that's where we saw the opportunity with HTL is to do something like that. Now we've now grown to a size where we are probably greater in terms of the number of people in our specific fields within our brokerage agency nationally than our competitors anyway. But yet I think we still look like a boutique.
Yeah, I agree.
Size.
How many people at HTL all up
about
now?
22 now. Yeah, nationally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
How does the pub market, from an outsider's point of view, tell me if I'm wrong, just for as long as I can remember, ever since I think you've been in pubs, it just seems to get better and better and better. Is that right? Has there, I mean, obviously COVID, a big challenge. Why is the pub market, has it become more trendy? Has it become like a thing that people like to invest in? It just seems to be always on fire.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing about pubs. Australians have a fascination with pub culture, and for good reason, because pubs have been the community hub around which everything else orbits.
Yes.
Wherever you may be, whether it's in George Street in Sydney, or whether it's in George Street in Cootamundra, the pub is the focal point, and the publican and the pub families and the identities who are the hosts of those pubs are quite often integrated deeply into those communities, and they might be generational ownership as well. So, Jeff, a long time ago, pubs would be known by the name of the family, the Moxham's Royal Hotel at wherever it was, and that was for a good reason. And the breweries set that up. They really wanted to front face those ownership structures, so that I feel like I'm actually in the establishment or the home or the hospitality offering of the Moxham family, if in that example.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
And I think people like that.
Yeah.
You like to see, and that's what we like about, and that's what you and I both have enjoyed over the years previously about working with the White family at Ray White. It's the same thing. People talk about that connectivity to family, even though it's the biggest real estate agency in Australasia.
Yeah.
But it still enjoys that family touch point. And so that's what pubs are. So you go to a Merivale venue or a Ryan venue or an Iris Capital venue, you feel like you know the identity of the ownership there.
So that hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. Absolutely hasn't changed.
Right, because it does seem to be controlled by there's numerous dominant groups coming in and out and buying and selling, and so it's still that.
It does seem that way, but the reality is that in no other asset class has are the top 4 or 5 operators representative of such a small percentage of the total asset class. So in any other asset class, the top 4 or 5 purveyors of the product, contributors to the asset class, the top 4 or 5 might own 50%. 40%. It's still sub 20%.
Right.
So the consolidation play still exists. Far greater than maybe it might look like, from an outsider's perspective looking in.
That's
but
really
look, you asked me about the market.
Yes.
And the market is and has been trending, particularly well. And even during COVID, when everybody was unsure about what to do and what to think and how what the manifestations might be for not only this asset class but all forms of business, and it was reasonably dark times there. Clearly, that's when this industry, I think, stood up, and people realised that there's a longevity about this asset class. I mean,
it's the relationship local connectivity that people really missed.
They missed it, and then when pubs closed down, and they're easy to wind down, clubs, and they're easy to wind up, and when they did that, and we reopened. I don't know whether you recall, but that sort of the Monday reopening after the announcement, people couldn't wait to get back there. Or even people who weren't necessarily avid and regular pub goers wanted to get back because they wanted that interaction with the people. They wanted that interaction with their local community. And what that did is it brought revenue to the pubs.
Yep.
It verified everything that everybody's thought about them the whole time. Maybe they're not recession-proof. Maybe nothing's recession-proof.
Yep.
But these things performed really well during that period. And the industry as a whole, not just HTL, but the industry as a whole set a record nationally during the pandemic when pubs were closed for the number and the volume of sales.
No way.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's sort of a common theme, I think, globally, cross-industry, post-COVID, is that real longing for connection, community, feeling, wanting something more out of our existence, I reckon, and the pub's all about that.
Yeah.
But it's, less trust and love for big brands, big government, emotionless institution versus sort of private business as well. I think, they call this year the Great Resignation, because people have come out of COVID and they're like, well, wow, what's really important to me now?
Yeah.
And so that makes complete sense with the pub market. So still going. So today, strong.
This year will be, I think 2019 was phenomenal. 2020 eclipsed that. 2021 eclipsed that, and 2022 will be well north of 2 billion in sales, national sales.
Wow!
Just in that particular asset class, in the pub asset class nationally. So, yeah, I mean, it has been growing. It has enjoyed, as I say, that fascination at the consumer level. So the till, so revenue is flowing.
Yeah.
The banks have supported the industry. The lenders have supported the industry.
I was going to ask, so for the